Welcome to Men Is Everything Okay podcast. I'm your host, Ope, and today we are joined by...
Yes, people, it's Richie in the car today. One.
Hey guys, Tori here. Ready to get stuck in.
How's it going, people? It's your boy, JR Jr. Back again to discuss the finer things in life.
Okay. Hi guys, it's Kay. I'm back again.
Hi, Zeph. I'm here with the facts again.
Everyone say hi!
Hi.
One.
So we're going to be doing a fatherhood series discussing about our fathers, being a father, and the role of a father. Today we're going to be discussing the relationships with our fathers. So right now we want to discuss how our relationships were when we were growing up. Can I start with Junior, please?
Yeah. So just generally, for me, just growing up, my relationship with my father, personally, has been a good one. Growing up, my father, he falls under the category of, so he's a Nigerian father, first and foremost. So you know how that goes. Comes with a lot of strictness, and if that's even a word, and a lot of education. So my dad was very big on on education. So from the jump, he was always about, you need to be educated. Like, no matter how much I was into like my football and I was into my music, my dad just really wanted me to get on the education path, and he was proper strict. So yeah, as you do, I ended up like going like obviously school, college, uni, qualified as an accountant. And I feel like that influence primarily has come from my dad, just how he was, because he always sort of put that emphasis on education on me from young. Looking back on it, probably would have pursued the football a bit harder because I feel that I was quite good. But obviously, real talk. But obviously, I'm not regretful, because at the end of the day, I've qualified as an accountant now. And it's opened up a lot of doors for me in terms of my career going forward. But yeah, I think the influence my dad had on me was mainly sort of getting me educated.
Yeah.
And another thing as well, which I'm really appreciative of, and it sort of shines in like just my persona, is my dad was always talking to me about humbleness from the get-go. He always told me that it doesn't matter what position you are in your life or your career, at work or your friends or whatever, never try and like treat someone like they're under you, because humbleness is the most important thing. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, like, in today, like for me, it's like I could like, when our parents kind of say these things, you kind of think to yourself, oh, bloody hell, this old man's going on again. But like now, you kind of see that the fruits of what he was trying to sort of teach me, and I am very grateful for that, because that humbleness has kind of got me far, and it's sort of helped me to build good relationships with people. Whereas I've kind of seen other people who are not as humble, and it doesn't really go the right way. Sometimes it does, but for me, I'm not a fan of that. I prefer to sort of do things the right way, and for me, my dad kind of installed those values in me. Another thing as well, which is very important, is my dad always taught me the importance of respecting women. So from the jump, even when I was like 12, 13, my dad told me, never hit a woman. Just don't do that. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Like, if you're in a situation where you're about to fight a girl or fight a woman, just don't do it. So that's always just stuck in my mind growing up. So that's one thing that like I'm very grateful for, because I know that with a lot of dealings with girls or women in the past, there can come times when it gets really heated, and you literally just want to throw that right hook. But that
you just have to add that in there, right?
For real, man.
So did anyone else feel like their father was very similar to Junior's in terms of it being really heavily about education? No.
Well, yeah, kind of. I think obviously I've got a Nigerian dad as well. So, my parents were always like, well, not necessarily my parents, my dad was very much about education, but I feel like he just echoed other Nigerian parents. It wasn't like, my dad left my parents split up when I was 9. So he wasn't like necessarily like a heavy influence in my life after like 9. But he definitely wanted me to be a doctor. Like there was no any other option. It was like, you're going to be a doctor. That's definitely what he wanted me to be. But yeah, I think it's only because I feel like I'm saying the whole education thing is quite heavy, because that's what he'd say when we talk, but we didn't talk often. Do you know what I mean? Like we didn't talk often. He'd just be like, how's your studies? How's it going? How's school? You know what I mean? It wouldn't be like really be on it, but I think he just echoed what other Nigerians would say. So to me, it kind of feels like he was about education, but it's very loose. Does that make sense? Like it's just something to say. Does that make sense?
Okay, so how was it generally?
Well, before my parents split up, I was very much a daddy's girl. Very much like, if my dad's watching football, I'm watching football. If my dad's, whatever he's watching, I'm watching. I'm sitting next to him, kind of thing. Like, I was very, well, hard to believe, very mute as a child. I never used to talk or scream or shout or anything. Very quiet. So my dad would be like, yeah, she can stay here. Like, you know, if there was parties going on, I'm right next to my dad, like sharing his food, sharing his drink. Like I was literally like that. You know, his first daughter, like I was like that. And then when my parents split up, he just disappeared, like just wasn't around. Even though my mum would be like, you know, you need to see your kids, see your children, that kind of stuff. He just wasn't interested as far as I can remember. I wasn't really about. And yeah, he just wasn't present. You know, there's like, you can be present and not be in the house, but he just wasn't present like at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was hard, a lot harder on my younger sister, I would say, because she was a lot younger than me. So when my dad would set days for us to come pick us up for the weekend, like one weekend in a month, and he either wouldn't turn up, or he'd turn up late, or we'd do something crazy like go and wash his car, which is like so random. Like, why are we going to wash your car? It's like a random thing. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest. We don't have the greatest relationship, like at all, really. But I'm the most honest in my family, so I think my dad kind of respects that, even though he doesn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, you said that how, you know, after about 9 years old, it wasn't really there. What about your adulthood? Do you have one now?
What, with my dad?
Yeah.
Yes, but I think only because we have other siblings. So altogether, my dad has 6 children. 3 from my mum and 3 from my stepmom. And one thing I always wanted to be, I'm the second, but I'm the first female. If you're Nigerian, you know, that's like, you're kind of like leading in things, and you know, you're the role model and that kind of stuff. So it's basically like it's basically like I'm the first, if that makes sense. So I wanted to make a point that I didn't want my you know, my other siblings that came after my sister to feel like we weren't around, to feel like we weren't there. So I made a conscious effort to like be there, talk to them, and try and have a relationship with them. And my mum was very much a staple in the fact that all of my siblings and my dad have a relationship. My mum always made us to go to his house for Christmas. No, regardless of whatever happened, we ain't seen him for the whole year. She'd be like, "You're going to dad for Christmas." Even if we begged her, we didn't want to go. Like she'd be like, "You have to you need to have a relationship with your dad. You need to have that." So my mum pushed that for the longest time, like to the point where it just became like routine to go to his house, even if we didn't want to go. And yeah, I think it was a slight detriment to my mum, if I'm honest, because she'd be by herself. And then my dad would have all these 6 kids around him, and you know, this bigger, and then my mum would be by herself. So it kind of made me feel a little bit bad for her, but I respect that she did that, because she didn't have to do that. So yeah, but right now, if my dad calls me, it's not like, it's kind of, he's kind of in it because I have siblings. Does that make sense? That sounds really rude, but he's kind of just, because we got siblings, he's kind of like there. But my siblings are growing up now. The youngest one is 11, but the 2 other girls are like 18 and 22. So we don't have to go through my dad. You know what I mean? We can kind of just, so he's kind of faded back a little bit more.
Okay, so we didn't really delve into dads too much.
Sorry. He just, honestly, there's not really much I can say, apart from the fact that he wasn't there, which I think is quite scarring for me personally. I feel like there's definitely, I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Oh,
I definitely feel like it was like an emptiness, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It just feels like there's nothing there. and things that I feel like I could have asked him or gone to him for, I can't, and I wouldn't now because it doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? It doesn't really connect in my brain. So for me, there isn't really a relationship there. It's just kind of like, that's my dad. Yeah, it's my dad, but that's it really.
Okay. I don't want to delve in too much. Are you okay, Tori?
Yes.
Oh, who texted you?
I'm okay.
Okay, because we will come back. And
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
And are you okay to be vulnerable?
I am.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. People will see the softer side. Okay, so anyone else? Zep, how was your relationship with your father when you were growing up?
Well, for me, I mean, I don't want to offend anyone on this panel. Junior, you're my boy. I love you. Sorry as well. But I'm going to drop a bit of a bomb, to be honest. For me, there's levels of being a dad, and there's, low, average, and high. And when we're talking about high levels, for me, that means you're going to take your child's ability and boost it to be the best in the world. I know everyone can't be the best in the world, but like, I don't know if you've seen the stories about people like Michael Jackson, the Williams sisters. Their dads pushed them so hard. Hamilton even pushed them so hard and got something out of them. Amazing, absolutely. Amazing. And I think if a dad can't do that, then they're only working at average level.
Wow.
Dad.
So you would say that the role of a father is to push you to reach your full potential?
Yes. And we're even talking, okay, now I mentioned the black people. Donald Trump, his dad, there's this quote he said, my dad only gave me $1 million to run my business. And he in a way like it was nothing in a way, but it's such a big thing, your dad to do something amazing and push you to some level where you're gonna reach superiority. Yeah. My point is those are the high levels, and again, I might sound a bit arrogant, but I think I could have achieved a lot more in life if my dad pushed me a lot. He wasn't a high level dad. He wasn't even an average level dad. He was he was below average, I would call my dad. He done a few good things in my childhood. One of them was I was being bullied, and he grabbed the bully by the throat, pushed him to the wall, and that guy was a scary guy, and everyone was scared of him. He was the biggest bully in school. No one touched me after that, not one person.
Wow.
So, and I saw that guy about 5 years ago, and the guy said to me, he said, "Oh, how's it going, Zeph? You cool? You cool?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." He goes, "Remember when your dad gripped me up? I was so scared." He goes, "I was so scared." I said, "Yeah, it's cool. Forget it. It was years ago. Don't worry." He goes, "You know how scared I was?" He goes, "Your dad's a scary guy, man." I said, "All right." Yeah. And that's what my dad was known for. He's a scary guy. We used to drive down the road, and if you get vexed at the driver in front of him, he'd jump out the car. He had a machete in the car. Jump out the car with a machete. And intimidate the next person. He was typical West Indian mad dad.
Bad man.
Obviously I got beat a lot, and my relationship wasn't in the sense where I felt close to him. I just had fear. I had a lot of fear of him, but everyone had a lot of fear of him. But he was a good dad in the sense where he'd make money, bring money home, and we lived comfortably. We lived well, happy. We had anything I wanted, I had it. So in that respect, he was good. I do say, like I said, to me, he was below average. And another couple of things that he could have done for me is he's from Dominica, and they speak Creole. And I always say to him, "Why don't you teach me Creole?" And he says to me, "I don't know it that well." But he should have just taught me it, in my eyes. And my dad's a mechanic, very good mechanic. He could have taught me that, didn't teach me that. One more thing, he's a Liverpool fan, massive one, and I'm wicked at football. I used to be wicked at football, and we could have that bond. We could have that bond where he could have brought me up supporting Liverpool. We could have gone to matches together and had that bond. We don't have that bond, and we're never going to have that bond, and that's his fault because he never, he never wanted that closeness. He never wanted that closeness. So yeah.
You said that he never wanted that closeness. How do you know that?
I don't know. He didn't want that closeness.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a dad myself.
Yeah. Okay.
With my kids, I try and find out what they're interested in and try and get with it. I'll give you a little example of something happened recently. One of my sons, he kept going on about this game that he plays on the iPad. It's called Roblox. I don't have no damn clue about this game, but I downloaded it on my iPad and I called him and I said, I've got Roblox on my iPad, let's play together. And we played together and he was telling me, oh, go in this room or go in this room. And, we were playing the game together. And that means you're interested in your child. What is your child interested in? You need to find out and work towards that so that you can build a bond together. Or you have the other side, like I said, which is the very high quality dad, for me, which is push your child into something and push them so hard that you see a talent and you stick on that talent and you make them excel at it and you got their back fully. So my dad didn't do any of those things. There's nothing that I can think of that is me now that my dad gave me. Nothing.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. However, I will say that although he might not have, taken the time to understand what you're involved in with, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can just put him in the category of he didn't want to have a relationship with you. Sometimes, I feel like sometimes, especially when they've come over from their hometown, when they come over to a different country, it's completely foreign to them. So they're on complete survival mode, in my opinion, anyway. They don't even think about having that emotional connection with their children. They immediately think, I have to provide, I have to ensure that my family's taken care of. So I think that because they're so clouded by that, it's just so easy for them to just continue on that route, rather than now we're able to be really analytical and understand what our children are going through so that we can be, better parents than our own. Kay, how was it for you?
Sorry, I just wanted to add one little snippet of that last part. One thing I learned in life is people can't give you what they don't have. So sometimes parents can't give you that because they haven't had it themselves from their own parents. Anyway, my parents got divorced when I was 6, and before that, I was just the apple of my dad's eye, and like everywhere my dad was, I was always in his hands. He took me everywhere. Like everyone just knew I was his favorite child. I know it's bad to say. And when my mum and dad got married, they wanted a little girl and they had me. So it was just like his little wish, his dreams had come true. After they divorced, I still had a good relationship with my dad, but he lived in America. So we would visit him in summer holidays and things like that. My dad called me all the time. He sent us money, sent us like packages to we always had the latest things from America because he would always send us things. And my mum and dad maintained a really good relationship throughout our whole life. Like they were best friends. So sometimes my dad would call and the first thing he'll be like, put your mum on the phone. I'm like, Dad, hello, do you not want to see how your child is? And he would laugh and be like, oh, but I just want to talk to your mum. So I think that helped as well. There was a period of time where we lived with him as well, myself and my sisters. We lived with him for about 2 years. He was, again, like what Tori and Junior said earlier, he was very big on education. He was big on education, but he never pushed any of us to be a certain thing, like, oh, you have to be a doctor. He was just like, this isn't good enough. So if I came in with a C or B, he'll be like, no, you need to retake that test. You can do better. So he would not accept anything other than an A. But I found that really good because my mum was more soft. So it's like I needed that push. No one's perfect. And we had times where our relationship was strained because he remarried and I didn't have a good relationship with his wife. So that strained my relationship with him. But I feel like the older I got is the more mature I got. And I just was like, do you know what? This is what he's chosen for himself. This is his journey in his life. And I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to let that impact the relationship I have with him. My dad passed away 9 years ago, but what I will say for me, I was really glad that I didn't let that affect my relationship with him. I was glad I was able to be there for him and see him in his like final stages of life and things like that. So I didn't have a perfect relationship by any means, but I had, I would say, a good enough relationship with my dad, where I know people always talk about this daddy issue thing. I don't really have any of that because I was always content and happy with the bond I had with him. My only downside is I sometimes will miss not having him in my life now for some things that I've gone through or I'm going through. I feel like, oh, I wish I could call him or see him or run away and be like, Dad, I'm coming to America to stay with you. But I don't have that obviously now.
So yeah, my relationship with my dad was quite strained. So he was there obviously, but he just had a lot of fear and frustration. Similar story to Zeph, like he's from Caribbean, Jamaica, and he's that kind of old school, aggressive, bad man sort of vibe. So he was like, you're scared of him from he just said any word. So yeah, I don't remember any conversations or learning anything specifically that he told me. It was more of his presence around, like I had the masculine presence around. So I couldn't get away with whatever. But I spent a lot of time kind of avoiding him, really. But yeah, that was he had issues of like, yeah, just he was basically unempowered. Like he didn't have the power to kind of speak up or go out and do things in life. So, and I pined a lot for my dad. So I looked up to him. So a lot of his traits I kind of took on. So that's what I've had to work on in my life growing up, to kind of eradicate those sort of thoughts and behaviors of like just being fearful in general of just living life. But the stuff that he was really a genius in a lot of areas, like cutting hair. Like, you see a lot of guys with waves in their hair. Like he knew a way to actually cut the waves into the hair. Like I tried to explain it to people, but I don't know any, like, this is the old school Caribbean like method sort of things. So that's one thing. Like he could build. He's a master carpenter. Like I get, because he built a lot of stuff in my house. So I get a lot of carpenters come around now to like, because the thing is he's not around now. He died like 2011. So I get people coming around to do work now, and they're like, oh, who did this all this work? It's like, yeah, my dad did it. And I'm like, wow, this is like some wicked work. So yeah, he could do that. Like kind of jack of all trades, but kind of master of all trades. So, but the thing is, he didn't have the confidence to kind of take it to like into like business or like do much with it. So I feel like I've kind of taken on sort of kind of, I don't know, call myself a genius, but there's a lot of stuff that I could do, but I'm taking a lot of fears from him. So I work daily to kind of, yeah, like I said, eradicate those sort of feelings. But from him being there, it saved me from kind of going off the rails, I think, of like being totally out of control. Like it gave me like that discipline to know certain limits I can take things.
Tori, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I want to ask about your relationship with your father.
So you're going to put me in it?
Yes.
You know what? My relationship
I'm going to try to escape it.
So the rest of you guys, like thinking about it, it was actually very surface level in terms of he was there as a father's figure in terms of I'm a provider for the household. I'm authoritative. I am, very pro-education. and I am what other thing can I say? I am someone that you should fear and not mess with. It's funny because it's completely changed now, but when we were younger, yeah, it was more of, and it was more of, well, like, dad's home, oh, you know, if we get in trouble, well, mum's going to tell dad, like, let's make sure we, you know, we don't get in trouble by dad, or, oh my gosh, we have an exam, or what grades did you get? Oh shoot, if we didn't get that good grades, we're gonna get in trouble by dad. Or if we wanted any school books or anything like that, it'll be, we'll go to dad because he would pay for those school things. If we wanted anything, you know, luxury or like anything leisure, is go to mum. So my dad was pretty much about, you know, education, about, you know, I'm providing for my household. Oh, the kids are the women. It's the woman's job. So if we wanted anything, we go to our mum. If we wanted the books, money for books or school money, is dad. But now it's completely different, because I feel like even though my dad was present and he's a very caring man. I think there was a phase of, you know, like I think both Kay and Tori said, you know, when they were younger, they were really like daddy's girls. Like, that was the same, you know, like you always want to be around daddy. And I remember really loving my dad even more than my mum at one point. And my mum used to get really jealous because I was like mummy's girl. Do you know what I mean, as well? But I remember thinking like, no, I'm a dad's child and I love my dad and I look like my dad and I always wanted to be like around dad. But that was like up to a certain age. And then when you get between, I think it's probably between like 9 and like maybe up to like 9 and 20 or something, like you don't really necessarily have that emotional connection with your dad, because it's more like when I was in uni, he would call and be like, oh, how are you? How's uni going? Like, yeah, it's fine. Oh, I hope you're studying. Yeah, I'm studying, and that's it. But my mum will come on the phone. Oh, man, how are you doing? How's everything going? Oh, you know, what did you do? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just like their role was just to push you to get the education, and once you've got the education, oh, I've done my job. It's fine. You know. So it's like that's the reason why I feel like what Zeph is saying is so true. There are levels to being a father, and like I want us to delve into those levels. So what would you say is the highest level of being a father? Zeph, since you're the one who said it, can I come to you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I already sort of said it. We're talking, to me, I think some people might watch the Michael Jordan documentary. Talk about Michael Jackson, talk about Lewis Hamilton, these sort of people, the Williams sisters. I watched the documentary on them as well, what their dad used to do for them. And to me, that's elite. That's elite level of what you're doing as a dad. You're actually pushing your child to have some sort of, or to bring out the potential that they have. You're drawing that out. And some people might argue and say, oh, you need to find that yourself. But as a child, it takes a long time to get that. The only thing you do mainly in life as a child is try and be the top of your class in maths or science or whatever. That's nothing. That means nothing, right? At this moment in your life, this age that we're at, all those subjects you were doing when you were in primary school mean nothing. We're talking about what is skill. What do you have that you could do better than everyone else? And I honestly believe that every person has something that you're amazing at.
Yeah,
it's just finding it. And for me, again, I think that your dad needs to do that. Your dad needs to find that. And you said about, oh yeah, your dad might be there for 9 to 20 years old and they become irrelevant or whatever it is. Then again, that's my point. Your dad hasn't been a good enough dad, because if he was, through your whole life, he'd be relevant. I can speak about a few people I know, dad, they're doing something with their dad which is relevant to their life now, and that will stay forever. You know, with me, it could have been football. It could have been easily, very, very easily. But my dad, again, he didn't. I know you said he might have wanted to or whatever, and it's different generation. I fully understand that. But what I don't understand is why is it taken my generation or me to he must have saw what his dad was doing for him and thought to him, I know my granddad is the same as my dad. Why are they all the same? And then it gets to me, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is wrong. We need to change it. It shouldn't
change of environment, different culture, being in the Western.
I don't think it is.
Exposure, a bit more knowledge.
I wanted to come back at you before when you said that, but you know why? Because you said, oh yeah, my dad grew up in Dominica, and your dad grew up in Nigeria, people from Nigeria. Yeah. But I know dads that are white who grew up in England here, and they're the same as my dad. They don't give a shit about it. Not they don't give a shit about the kids, but what I'm trying to say is they don't push their kids to any levels. They don't give them any success. They don't push them anywhere. But then you have certain dads that do push their child to certain levels and take extra care. I mean, Junior, I love what you said about your dad. I think that's the sort of dad I like, and I love that. And I think he gave you some amazing skills to get on in life. But maybe, just maybe, he could have done that bit more to just make you better in whatever you are in. And you said you're in accountancy, you probably love it, good. But I'm sure if someone asked you at 10 years old or 15 years old, what is your passion? What do you want to be? You probably might have said, like you said, the football, me 100% football. I would have said, I want to play in the Premier League. Yeah. Could do it, I'm good enough. And if my dad pushed me, I guarantee you I would be playing in the Premier League. There's no shadow of a doubt, because I was that good.
But you use the example of like people like Michael Jackson, right? And we understand that, okay, yeah, he's amazing at what he does. However, the relationship with his dad was very, I think for him, he describes it as very negative. Like, okay, yeah, you know what, I reached my peak. I'm a fantastic entertainer, but the relationship with my father, you know, he sort of borderlined it as abuse. So what would you say that, how would you define that as the highest level of fathership? Or fatherhood?
I would say the Michael Jackson one is the anomaly out of what I've said. So if we talk about Lewis Hamilton, the Williams sisters, so on, whatsoever, they have a good relationship with their dad. The Michael Jackson's anomaly. However, his dad pulled that amazing talent out of him. He managed to do that. And he's the only person that done that. You can't say anyone else made Michael Jackson who he was. And although his dad is not, you can't, it's hard because I said he's elite level. He is lacking, obviously, because he made Michael Jackson have those things about thinking he's got a big nose or he's ugly or whatever. He made those things. So that's poor fatherhood, obviously. You shouldn't make your child feel like they're not beautiful, because you should make your child know and feel like they are a beautiful person inside and out. So he failed in that part. But I mean, my point is Michael Jackson, to me, is probably the best artist in the world ever. Yeah. Ever.
Agreed.
So his dad must have done something right, and that's why I say elite. Like, I'm not the best singer in the world ever. I'm never gonna be. But if I had him as a dad, possibly I could have.
Would you like that level of success, like of a dad?
And that's my point. My point is I feel some people are made to be average, or they want to be average. Or like my brother is happy with his life, comfortable. You know, it's cool for him. Me, I want more, and I can be more, and I had the potential to be more. I just needed a dad or a mentor to push me to that level. And I feel like if my dad saw that in me and he was a good enough dad, he could have easily got me to that level, and we would have all be living happy. All of us. Easy life.
So does anyone else agree with Zeph?
Yeah, I agree with Zeph. I agree with Zeph, 100%.
Yeah, I agree as well. I feel like, sorry, Junior, you going to say something?
No, you go through it, I'll go draft.
I was going to say there like, I agree with you there being levels, and I think it's it does stem, I think the lack of those levels, as in being like a below average dad or average dad, goes to Richie's point about being fearful of certain things, and going to Ope's point about not having those things, and I think Kay said it as well, not having those things, not having those examples in the first place. But I also think there's a responsibility as a parent, as a person, to say, if I didn't have those, I'm going to make sure that my child has that. Do you know what I mean? Even if you do stumble along the way and do things wrong along the way, making a point to be like, okay, I never had a father like this, so I'm going to be the father that I never had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I think you do mess up, and there are things that are going to come along the way, i.e. Michael Jackson's dad, his dad probably told him that he's ugly. So he said the same thing, even though he was still pushing Michael. Do you know what I mean? So we don't know, but I assume the reason why he thought that is because he saw in Michael what is in him. You know, parents often see what they see, and if someone's told them it's ugly or not good, then they kind of pass that down as well without even thinking about it. I don't know, but I'm assuming. But yeah, I definitely think there's levels to fatherhood, and I feel like there is a level of getting out of your own way to better for your child. Even if you're like, I don't really know how to do this, but I'm going to get out of my own way, out of my own feelings, out of my own, I don't know how to do this, to push my child to be better. But then I think there's also cultural things, which I think we don't necessarily take into account until like later on. My dad may have thought the best thing for me to be is a doctor, because he came from a place where a doctor, a lawyer, all those things were valued. Yeah. Like being an entertainer, being an artist, being a creative wasn't valued. That's not valued. So in his mind, that doesn't mean anything. So I could have been the greatest painter ever. I could have been the greatest singer. That's irrelevant to him. As far as he's concerned, you be a doctor, you be a lawyer, you be some, do you know what I mean? You make sure you bring the money into the household, because he's in survival mode, and he's like, this is the things that make money that I know. So I think in that respect as well, even if your dad is pushing you to be a lawyer, you don't want to be a lawyer, he's still thinking that's the best thing you could be. I think kind of like what Junior was saying, like being an accountant, he was like, okay, that's a good, stable job. You can make money wherever you are, no matter what. Do you know what I mean? So kind of like, that's the level. So he may not have valued football. Like my dad didn't value the arts. I'm very creative, like probably got a million creative things. My dad didn't value that at all. Like, what do you mean you want to dance? What do you mean? Like, my friend, can't you just move? Like, that's not relevant to him. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I'm not education based. I'm not sit and talk to me. I'm not that kind of person. So I know growing up, my dad didn't understand why I didn't get things. Like, he couldn't get it. Like, and it frustrated him. It frustrated me. He didn't understand that. So at the time, you know, there's kind of like, oh, you kind of like, oh, like he doesn't get me kind of thing. And I think my dad was scared that I wouldn't amount to anything because I didn't have good grades, that he didn't even look at anything else. It was kind of just like, study your book, study your book, study your book. And that was it. Just study your books. Like, that's all you have to do. And he couldn't understand why I didn't get it. My brother got it. My sister got it. I'm the middle child. So my brother, like, what's wrong with you? And he'd say that to me. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you be like your brother? Like, why can't even your little sister understands it? Do you know what I mean? There's kind of things that put you down. I know where it comes from now, but it's still scarring. Do you know what I mean? I understand it, but it's still like, do you know what I mean? And if you come from a place where, like opposite, you're from survival mode, all you're thinking is make money. That's all they're thinking. Make money, you know? So
what do you think that it is that they missed? Like, do you think it's lack of self-awareness and not really having as much knowledge?
I think care. I can only talk for my family and like my parents, and like going back to Nigeria a couple of years ago and seeing my granddad and my grandma and kind of like connecting the dots. And I think there is, as far as I am aware, in my family, there's a lack of like emotional care when it comes to their children. It's like, I had you, you're gonna make sure you do this, make sure you make me proud, you know, like very Nigerian, like boastful. They want to kind of like boast about their kids, but there's a lack of like emotional, like, I love you, hugging. There's a lack of that as my family, as far as I know. Like, that's very much lacking. And when that's lacking, there's kind of things that you miss. I feel like you miss. Do you know what I mean? Like my dad only started saying I love you a couple of years ago, maybe. Yeah. And the first time he said it, I was like, I called my sister and I was like, I think something's wrong with Dad. Like, because I honestly thought like something is happening. Like, is he ill? Is he like, what's happening? Because he didn't say that. Do you know what I mean? Like, he never said it. He's never, ever, ever said it. So when he said it, I was just like, okay. I didn't even respond. I was just like, okay, thank you. Like, what do I say to that? And it's sad for me. I'm laughing now, but I'm thinking it's sad that for you to say I love you,
something negative, yeah.
And I'm thinking, what happened? Like, what's wrong? What's happened? You know what I mean? And I think with my dad is, I think he's gotten to the point where, you know, he's not stuck in his ways, but I think he thinks it's too late to change, because my dad's, like I said, he's married, and I'm really close to my stepmom. I call her mom, like, and she's got obviously 3 other children. There's 6 of us, and my dad wasn't in the house when I was younger, like from 9 up, as you know. Yet in my siblings' lives now, I don't want to say too much, but he's in the house now, and they feel exactly the same way I feel. But he's there, like he's been in the house, he's present, he's, you know, all these things. And I'm having conversations with my sisters who don't live with me, my other sisters, and I'm confused. I'm like, what? How can we have the same experiences, but he's present? So I think my dad feels like he doesn't have to change. And also, sad to say, but the people around him, including maybe like my stepmom, maybe, I don't know, like not holding him accountable for being better, like saying you need to be better, and him wanting to be better. That's what I think personally. And then that mixed with the lack of emotion, I think it's kind of to that point where he's just like, I'm like this now.
Do you think that they know what better is, though?
I think my dad does.
Genuinely know what better is?
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think my dad does. I think my dad knew certain things were lacking, because my mum would say it to him all the time. We would say it to him all the time. But looking at how his children have turned out, I think he thinks that's because of him. Do you know what I mean? Rather than him, the lack of the things he did, we turned out. He's thinking, oh, because I was that way, you turned out okay. What do you mean? Do you know what I mean? So I think he's thinking, oh yeah, I was alright then. I thought I was bad, but now I'm good. It's like, no. It's not that. So I think he knows, but he's okay because we're okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like the fact is, you've turned out the way you have, like in spite of him, not
exactly.